Hello, my name is Georgina Harvey.
And I'm Georgina Harvey.
And we're here today talking about our film Iterum. When we started this film, what thrillers were we inspired by? And what thrillers do you think is similar to ours?
I think the first one that we took a lot of inspiration from was Lovely Bones. And the scenes with the bar, the sink and the ornaments, or the mise-en-scène from For the Blood hinting towards her death, which we don't actually get to see in the film.
I think we liked the sense of ambiguity and how the audience was so confused, and this made an uncomfortable feeling for the audience, which I really think resonated with us. Therefore, within our film, we began with a lot of establishing shots that opened up a lot of questions and mystery.
How does it challenge the characteristics of a thriller film? I mean, I think that by having a girl as the main protagonist is quite unstereotypical for the genre that we're doing. This idea is emphasised when we find out that she is a villain. We also see her point of view and follow her throughout the opening, which is different to most of the thrillers that we've watched, and these always in the eyes of the heroes or the victim.
Yeah, I agree. However, we do also have some stereotypes in our films, as on the radio we have a man who runs the show and therefore is working, which is a male stereotype, as they're always seen as the breadwinners. Yeah. And on the other side we have an upset mother on the phone that is portrayed as a weak damsel in distress. But I guess a non-stereotype that we have is that it's quite ironic that it's actually a girl who's taken the child away, as it's normally a male antagonist, as they're portrayed as more smart and manipulative.
We had to blog while doing our film and found out information, like I know that American Horror Story really inspired our music. Our blogs are quite similar to ones already out there, as they are the first-hand account of what we did and they're quite personal. Yet they are quite factual, which gives us an informative nature.
Show me the good child. Why is she the good child?
Because I think she looks like me.
Okay. Show me the bad child. Why is she the bad child?
Because she's a lot darker.
How does your media product represent particular social groups?
In the clip before, you can see how colour is portrayed in our society and how there are different connotations for different ethnic groups. You can see this by the clip as the child points at the lighter skin picture of the kid as being the good child, and then when asked who the bad child was, she pointed at the darker skinned kid. We weren't born with these prejudiced views and therefore must have learnt them from our environment, and the media plays a big role in this.
We wanted to challenge this stereotype in our film, as the antagonist in our thriller is a Caucasian female, which is anti-stereotypical. Villains in thrillers are normally foreign, as it does not fit society's norm of a white British or American male, making them unusual to the audience and therefore untrustworthy and evil. However, with our thriller, we wanted to change this perception.
We aimed our thriller at the teenage demographic to make the film more relatable for our viewers. Having the antagonist as the same age as our audience unnerves them and makes them think that anyone could be like that, a friend or family member. It also makes the character relatable.
How and why did you represent these social groups? Our film was targeted at a wide social group. We wanted the whole thriller to encompass all the natural tendencies that human have. This makes our film more authentic and powerful, as it attacks the audience's biggest fears. An example of this is the parent storyline in the extract. The biggest fear is that their children will be harmed or taken away from them, making this film relatable, as it focuses on the natural tendency of the maternal instinct.
Or in another instance, we see another story arc of a troubled teenager. Even though within our films this is an extreme case, the audience are still able to relate to it, as teenagers frequently have moments in their life where they are lost.
Okay. Discuss your audience research. We handed out questionnaires to our peers to ask what thrillers they liked and why. This gave us a good idea of what thrillers interested our demographic. Through this, we understood that they enjoyed psychological thrillers because it really messed with the audience and makes them question what's happening in the film throughout and afterwards.
Yeah. And this kind of helped us create our film because we wanted the audience to be questioning everything like throughout it. Therefore, we focus on our mise-en-scène quite a lot, on being like very significant to the plot. Therefore, the viewer has to look very hard in trying to find like clues, like to for the crime and how she committed them. Like for example, we had a diary in our film where if you look closely enough, you'd see the date of when she did it and like how she did it, like to murder all the children.
To attract our audience, we focused on a variety of elements that we thought would entice and entertain our audience. We wanted to make our plot disturbing and mysterious. We did this by putting the audience in the eyes of the antagonist. Normally, media does this to make the audience feel sympathy to the protagonist. As you're in their shoes, you feel connected to them. But with our film, because the protagonist was doing wrong, was evil, it made the audience feel really unnerved and like they couldn't do anything about what she was doing. It makes them feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, this kind of gave like an element of suspense in our film because the opening establishing shots confuse the audience a bit, setting them up like a puzzling tone to the film. And at the start with a lot of people viewing our film because we wanted everyone to kind of like, oh, come look at our film, come look how it is. A lot of people did think and kind of speculated that at the beginning that our actor was actually dead in the bathtub when in fact she was just calmly just resting in it. She was submerging herself in the water.
In the water. So it kind of like opened up a lot of questions. What's going on? Everybody has different ideas. And the music was a big part in our film, and we spent a lot of time on it to make sure that it was effective and complemented what was happening on the screen. We wanted the music to be very dark, so we used a lot of minor chords and repetition in our music. This reflected how she was a mass murderer and worked in a secular nature. So once she killed, she would go back and plan again and then kill again. So that's why a lot of our chord progressions are repeated throughout.
And it definitely got like darker towards the end.
Definitely, when you work out,
like
when you see that bracelet, you work out that she's the murderer, and it definitely changes.
Then it escalates from there.
Too much.
Escalate.
Right.
So that is our analysis
of
our question.
How did we attract and address our audience? Thank you very much. Who would be the audience for your media project?
We focused our film on young adults. This was reflected in the way we wanted to present our demographic. Knowing this was our target audience, we wanted to play on the idea of having a similar age antagonist. Initially, we wanted to make a film which focuses on the idea of a troubled teenager. But within our thriller, we wanted to use this common issue within our demographic to turn it into an extreme case. So even though the audience is witnessing something that is unfamiliar to them, there is still an element of subconscious understanding.
I don't think our film is gender biased, and we tried to have elements that would entice and interest all genders. For example, I think our film would be effective towards a male audience. By having a dominant female lead, the male audience will feel intimidated, as they may feel emasculated as it does not fit the norm of how women are represented in the media. Normally, girls are presented as shy and weak, so it allows a male audience to feel comfortable in their stance, as they know they will have some type of dominance or responsibility over the female. Our film allows the male audience to experience a different feeling that may unnerve them and feel uncomfortable throughout our film.
On the other hand, we believe that this film would be effective to a female demographic, as they, like men, don't commonly see women in the dominant light, creating a new perception of how women are presented in thriller films. That can be inferred as inspiration, even though she is portrayed in a negative fashion.
We also wanted our film to appeal to a wide range of backgrounds and cultures, and even though our protagonist is played by a Caucasian British actor, we did not want this to restrict our thriller in any way to a specific culture. I feel like our film would attract our target audience, as we have tried to create a psychological thriller which defies a lot of conventions of a typical thriller film. This attracts the audience as it is a different perception on how they can view different representations of culture, gender and age, giving us a unique selling point that we feel our audience will respond to.
We didn't want our audience to be fully satisfied at the end of our movie. We wanted to lay out our film so if the audience watches it again, they would then see a lot of the Easter eggs, which would not be clear to them if they hadn't watched the whole film. At the end of the first viewing, we wanted the audience to be left questioning it and open for interpretation. As like Inception, we wanted to leave our film with an open-ended question, which can be inferred in any way. What kind of media institution may distribute your media product and why?
We thought that the best institution to distribute our film is Blumhouse Production. We wanted this production company to distribute our film as they are known for their successful horror and thriller films, so much so that their tagline is celebrating all things scary. Blumhouse Productions never exceeds the budget of $5 million, however they still make box office hits and therefore make a lot of profit.
They have made such classics as Insidious, Paranormal Activity, Unfriended, Sinister, and so many more. Blumhouse Productions doesn't just want to make purely terrifying films, but they wanted to also have storylines that make the films more intriguing and therefore more disturbing. We wanted this to be a key factor within our film and have a good storyline which makes the film more authentic.
A film that this institution has distributed is Unfriended. We feel like this film is similar to ours as it focuses on the teenage demographic and uses modern technology to target this niche. As well as this, the murderer in the film is also a female. However, she is out for revenge and not for enjoyment, unlike our film. However, overall, we feel like this company will be able to target our film to our specific demographic, as this company has a good reputation for films that teenagers like and respond well to.
What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
With the filming equipment, we experimented a lot with the way we wanted to film our extract. We used a Canon camera, which was 1080p, so our film would be in high definition. We experimented with the settings on the camera. For instance, we used a feature on our camera to make what we were filming black and white to get a film noir style thriller. However, we wanted our film to be more modern and appeal to a teenage demographic, so we decided to have our film in Technicolor.
We also experimented with a lot of camera angles and figured out which one would look best on the big screen. We liked using a lot of establishing shots and close-ups to make the beginning of our film more mysterious. We used a tripod within our filming to make some of the camera movements more fluid. For example, we wanted a 360 shot of the antagonist's bedroom, and after trying it without the tripod, we decided that it was necessary to have one, otherwise the camera work would be too shaky and take away from what the audience should be focusing on.
Once we had all of our footage, we started importing it all into Final Cut Pro, the editing software that we wanted to use. We used the preliminary task to get to grips with using this editing software. However, throughout our film we still learnt a lot of tricks and effects.
In quite a lot of our film, we put in visual effect called beach bypass, which made our film look more worn out and cold. However, before we chose this effect, we did experiment with a lot of others. Yet all the other effects we personally thought were too obvious and we wanted something subtler, however still quite effective. We also played around with cropping bits of our footage to make a more cinematic look to our film. Therefore, we cropped the top and bottom of our screen and then rescaled it.
During the radio show, we wanted an effect that reflected the muffled sounds of radio frequencies. Trying out different effects, we did find one called radio. However, trying a few more, we decided that the phone effect was much more authentic. As well as this, we played around with the volume of our clips to make sure the levels were the same. This made our film more professional and more consistent.
We used other software in our film. For example, we used Word while scripting. We also explored Blogger to document our progress of our film. We enjoyed using Blogger as we found it was a creative way to reflect everything that we have learned. If you look at our blogs, you can see how our posts get more personal the more recent they are. Maintaining our blog was important. And even though we were focusing on film and editing, we still kept our blog up to date.
We also explored the HTML element within Blogger and changed the layout of our blog to look more effective and more aesthetically pleasing to the reader. We also used GarageBand to create a score for our film. We wanted to make our own music to not have any copyright issues within our film. At the beginning of using GarageBand, we found it hard to understand how to layer our music. However, we soon got to grips with the software and soon made a soundtrack that we were happy with.
Oh, hi, Harry.
Hi, George. Is it okay if I borrow your frisbee?
Yeah, sure, but can I have it back?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
How did the preliminary task prepare us for our film? The preliminary task helped us get to grips with the media and software we would be using throughout our project. We were able to use this as a guideline of how to edit and film our project. It helped us understand the basics of Final Cut Pro, e.g. how to import videos, create a new project, and use a variety of tools such as Blade. We learned that editing needed to be seamless, and it was important that the film flowed and that there were no continuity errors. We realised that good editing is when you can't really see that it has been done.
We also got to grips with the equipment we were going to use. During this task, we worked out what camera angles we liked and looked good on the camera. For example, the over-shoulder shots we really liked, and we used them in our reel extract. I also learned that keeping the camera at the same level was important, so it would not look different for the audience between cuts. At the beginning of the preliminary task, we wanted Harry sitting on the table, but later realised that this would affect the over-the-shoulder angle and would look weird, as there would be a different height through the cuts. Therefore, we had him sitting on the chair just like George.
How did this learnt knowledge affect our main task? We felt more prepared going into our main task as we had an idea of the shots that we liked and basic knowledge of how footage looks once it has been edited. Knowing the basic skills of Final Cut Pro, we had a lot of ideas of how we wanted to edit our film, making us excited about what's to come. We felt comfortable in our knowledge of all the equipment and software and were ready to film. Therefore, overall, all of this experience was very beneficial.